Welcome everyone, this is Michael Ricardo, Michael Ramon Ricardo, alias Ricardo. People may call me all these different things, but just know that you can visit the website michaelricardo.com and you can get tips and everything that you may need as far as from videos and certain things that I want to do for others like empowerment and motivation. And the thing about what I'm doing this year, I want to get so deep onto organizing your life and not digitally. Digital things are great too, but how to take it out of the realm of saying you're in front of a computer or saying you're in front of your phone, because a lot of times we are losing touch with the actual reality of where we are. I'm usually seeing people on their cell phones, they walk or they're driving and they're so preoccupied with their phones. They're so preoccupied with what's going on in the virtual realm instead of what's going on in their actual realm. And I'm not saying it's everybody. There are a lot of people who are knowledgeable about what's going on in this world. But I remember in a time where we didn't have cell phones. I remember in a time where we had dial-up. Come on, everybody. When we had dial-up. And at that time, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have, where we could look at Google to answer all the things all the things going on in this world. We didn't have that. We had the encyclopedia. We had the dictionary. We actually went to the library for books. We read books. But there's another thing that we've lost touch of. When was the last time you used a trusty pen? This is a pen in blue ink. Why do I choose color? Because what you want to do, you want to display color in whatever you do write down. So I'm going to touch on that. I'm going to go into detail with that. But trusty pen, trusty notebook, or trusty journal. And people will wonder, Michael, why do you have so many journals? These are journal after journal, journals after journals after journal. Just a lot of journals collected throughout the times that I've been writing. And a lot of them have a lot of writing in there. And you might find things where there's so much detail, writings in there, and I write things. And the funny thing about it is when I'm writing in these journals, sometimes it's just ideas. Sometimes it's things that are very important at that time. And I can look back into them and I can say, you know what? I remember when I wrote down, and I don't mind showing. I even have where, I have these notes that I've written down. I have splashes in there, coffee stains. And you know what? I don't care about that. I don't mind that. It just shows that I am that in touch with writing things down, that I haven't neglected using paper, using pen. And in reality, that's what's going on in society, where we're getting so far away from writing that we don't know how to articulate with great penmanship. There's a lot of people who they have a lot of slang in their talk. When does it hurt to speak proper English? So I'm not bashing on anybody. Like everybody has their own, slang or their own way of talking and their own accents. That's cool. I'm not going against that. But what I'm speaking on is staying in touch with the natural realm, the realm where you're able to write things down, where you're able to stay in touch with writing information down. You're not going to go into your cell phone and search this and search that and then type this and type that. It's good, it's convenient, but how many times have people lost their cell phones? How many times have people broke in, had viruses on computer or had data that was on computer, photos, for example, WordPad, you have a lot of things typed up through Microsoft and all these different things that may take place. You have all these situations taking place and you lose this here, you lose that there, and you're not able to obtain some of that stuff that you may have had in the past. Or because you might fill your computer up with all these different things, a lot of it gets lost inside the virtual realm. Oh, let me go ahead and search in the computer to find this photo. But grandmother Or, great grandmother or your grandfather might say, you know what, I remember when I was this young and I did this, and the photo is right there. Having photo albums, these photo books, where you're able to flip the book open and able to see the photos that were taken instead of having them inside a computer and then they're lost somewhere. I'm talking to myself sometimes too. A lot of us allow the computers to, dictate how we write our information, get our information, where we place our information, and we are forgetting and neglecting what we used to have in the past. We used to have these notebooks. We used to write more. We used to read more. And for those who may not have read a lot in the past, they're not reading anymore. They're not reading any greater. Society, what can we do to get back to the basic of things before the cell phone was out? What can we do to get back to the tradition of things? Yes, it's great that we have innovators out here who are creating things. But can we balance creation? Can we balance the new things that are created? Can we place a balance into how much we utilize our cell phone, utilize the computer, how much we're inside the computer, how much we may go onto these social media sites? See, I've done a social media fast. How long can I stay away from social media? I can stay away for months. As a matter of fact, I can delete the account if I wanted to. But because there's other people who are needing information and there are people that I can reach out to in order for me to do my calling, I'm going to utilize them. Even though I know in the back of my mind I can easily delete and it's not going to do any harm to me. The same thing for your computer. Could you go months without your computer? Could you go months without a cell phone? Could you completely eliminate the cell phone? What has happened in this world is we've gotten away from writing things down, making things plain. This whole entire series that I've done is on the book of Habakkuk, on the chapter 2. And writing things down and making them plain is very, very important. When you type things up, I want to get much deeper into this. So I'm going to touch much deeper. This is where it gets off the level plane and where it goes really deep. Do you know that when you're typing, your fingers cannot recognize unless the buttons on the computer are etched in or engraved in? Your fingers don't know what they're actually placing in. They may know exactly where the buttons are. Your eyes might see those buttons, and then afterward you look away and you're looking into your computer. But you're not actually utilizing your senses to the utmost to put in the memory of what was actually placed in computer. So, for example, you're typing up a letter. The letter happens to be 1,000 words. 1,000 words inside that letter. Your brain did not trigger all of those words. Although it might see it on the computer, all 5 of the senses weren't able to trigger what was placed into that computer. But what if you wrote down the letter and you utilized 1,000 words? Your hand, you're using the sense of your touches. You're using one of your senses, which is touch. And you can feel yourself writing the word. Say you wrote in, to whom it may concern. Your hand remembers the movement that you've done to write to whom it may concern. And then your eyes are looking at to whom it may concern. Your senses are smelling the ink that was placed to the paper. You can hear yourself jotting down these things. Now you're not tasting your paper, but majority of your senses are taking in everything that's taking place compared to when you're typing. When you write things down, in reality, to my opinion, when I write things down, not only am I able to store away some of those things and then come back to them years later. For example, something that was written 5 years ago, I just happen to have things that are written A few years ago, I just happened to have, I even got notebooks past 10 years. I have notebooks past 20 years. Yes, 20 years. Why do I have these things? Because they were written down. They're not lost into the virtual realm. So if I have things of that old, would it make sense to write things down? To not just rely on this virtual, all these things placed into computer. I've lost a lot of technology. A lot of equipment for technology. I've lost a lot of software. I've lost a lot of hardware. But one thing I haven't lost yet, even though some things might get thrown away, some things might get tossed here and there, for some reason I'm still able to obtain it afterward. I haven't lost many of these paperback things. I haven't lost any of these journals. So it's really, really important just to have a journal on hand. It's really, really important to not take for granted the things that we used in the past. There have been many books that have been written, and guess what they utilized? Paper and ink. Why stop now? It's great that we have technology. I'm not downing that. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying balance it. Balance how much you utilize your cell phone. Balance how much you utilize the computer. Balance how much you utilize staying on computer. For videos, if they got tips and tricks, that's good. But now, don't just stay there and just learn these things. Take them and put them into action. So, I can go so deep into this right here, but I like to break it down into sections so then that way you can get much more in depth with why I have a journal, why it's so important. I spoke about calendars, I spoken about having a financial book a little bit. I'm going to touch more into the financial book. I spoke a little bit about journals also, but this is just a continuation going more deep into why having a journal. And as always, like I like to say, I'd like to thank you all, love you all. This is Michael Ricardo. Thank you all, love you all, and God bless.